they, don't expect it. Yeah, I didn't turn it on, sorry. Okay, thanks. All right. I don't know, but I think it's just because, in the St. James, if any of these reviewers saw it in New York City, it's a 1,500 seat auditorium, and this is what, 34 or something.
Rolling.
Well, Andy, good morning.
Good morning, Bobbie.
We were both saying it was a short night.
That's right, we were out partying last night.
Yes. Well, mostly we were not so much partying as just celebrating your wonderful and glorious opening night.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did you have any previous connection with the producers before this?
I had none. I owe a debt to a casting director who remembered me. Vinny Liff is his name, and he's passed away. And he remembered me from, I was living in Los Angeles and was out of the New York casting loop for a while. I'd been raising my kids in L.A. And they were looking for a funny guy who could sing and dance a little bit and to replace the Matthew Broderick character. I really hadn't been in any of the New York casting for a while, and Vinny Liff remembered me and said, "Oh, there's this guy, you should see him." So I flew out to New York, and there were certainly more famous people they could have chosen, but Vinny was like, "Nah, you're going to like this guy," and Susan Stroman and Mel Brooks took his recommendation, and I got the job.
Hold it. You're rolling.
I know. From being small. They can do the same thing.
To know.
Yes.
Okay. Well, moving right along. What do you think was Mel Brooks's, or who might have been Mel Brooks's inspiration for this?
Well, he loved musicals as a kid. He had told a story about, I think one of his uncles took him to Anything Goes or something. So I don't know if that's right. Some show many, many years ago when he was a kid, and he loved all the chorus girls and the jokes, and he grew up on that kind of humor. I think that in the service, he was in the service during World War II, and he used to do Hitler impersonations, and everybody, they laughed, but they were appalled at the same time that anyone would do that. But he always it was his way of saying that to Hitler as a Jew in the war, and and he also worked for a producer in New York who used to take these long lunch breaks and disappear to raise money. And so Mel came up with this idea about a guy who, raises money kind of with his, entertaining little old ladies and then, create the worst show in history, and he does an homage to Hitler. I think that there were all these parts of his life that came together to create that story, and then, he made the movie. It was his first directing after being a writer on Sid Caesar shows, and he won the Academy Award for the screenplay. A lot of people don't know that, and he just left it alone for about 40 years, but people kept urging him to make it into a musical, and we're all glad that he did.
Did you meet Mel Brooks ever?
Yes, yeah. He was around when they were putting my show together. They call it the Leo Tour because there was another tour at the time. And not a lot, I saw him in the auditions, obviously, and he didn't really speak to me. I'd do my thing, and then he'd go, and then, I don't know what he was saying. To this day, I don't know what he was saying. Give me a cheeseburger with it. But during the rehearsal process, he would come by, and he would mostly defer to his director, Susan Stroman. He would give notes through her. But I did have a lovely opportunity. Anne Bancroft just passed away, and we were very sad about that. And of course, they were great partners for 40 years. On my opening night in Boston, Anne and Mel, the stage manager said, Mr. Brooks and his wife would like to see you. It's like, nah, no, I'll be out when I feel like. No. So I came out, and Anne Bancroft said, she was very complimentary, and she was really lovely and stunning, at 73 years old. And they were very effusive and very happy with my performance. And Mel said, "You know what I love? You know what I love that you do? And he was just about to tell me, and Ann grabbed him by the arm and said, Mel, don't tell an actor what you think his favorite, what he's going to love. He's going to ruin, he's going to screw it up. Every time he does that part, he's going to go, Andy's going to think, Mel loves it when I do this part, And I was like, and Mel looked at Ann and went, sorry, kid. So to this day, I don't know what it is that Mel likes about my performance. But it was they're a great pair, and I was really sorry to hear about her passing.
I'm going to ask you if you have your blankie in your
No, but I got all that material from my son, or at least my version of doing it. I have a 10-year-old now, but he dragged this this blanket around. It was just funky because he hated it when we'd wash it. He was so attached to that. He was like a little Leo Plume, but he took it well into past the years when most kids get rid of their blankies and their pacifiers and stuff. He wanted to take it to school, and eventually it just got smaller and smaller. Now it's a bag of string, basically a smelly little bag of string that he keeps in a Ziploc bag in his room, and he's probably going to take it to college. Sorry, Dashiell, but he was really attached to that thing, and so it wasn't hard for me to find some behavior that for a guy who's still obsessed with his baby blanket.
The big number, one of your big numbers, I want to be a producer. Would you like to be a producer?
Well, sure. There seems to be, at least I'd like to be a producer of the producers. I don't think I'd want to be a producer of, one of the, like Carrie or something, and lose my shirt. But I think everybody can relate to being like an average guy with aspirations of grandeur, and then throw in some 6-foot blonde Swedish chorus girls. As a kid growing up, I was an average guy, nearsighted, short, kind of bookwormy kid. I played sports and stuff, but I had fantasies about being something greater than I was at the time, and I think that song is sort of a paean to that idea, that everybody, we all have kind of an average Joe in us that longs to be something a little more glamorous, and so it's great fun to get to sing that every night.
Of course, you're playing opposite this Amazon blonde.
Yes.
Gorgeous woman.
Yeah.
Now, your wife is in the show.
She is. Yeah, she unfortunately was sick last night, the first show she's ever missed. She has some vocal, laryngitis. She's one of the ushers that comes through the show, usherettes, comes through the door at the top. When I first got the tour, we had a little girl, our little girl was 7 months old when I got this job, but it was such a good role. We were living in LA, but I had to take it. My wife insisted we all go, and so we packed up the family, and she raised Lucy when I was, she took care of Lucy, our 2-year-old, now 2-year-old. But about 6 months ago, there was a part in the show that's the only part in the show that's not for a 6-foot Amazon blonde. Because my wife is 5'4", but a tap dancing singer, needs to have great Broadway pipes, which my wife Alette does, and she got the part. So then we had to get a full-time nanny to look after our kids, which was a nice problem to have. But so Alette's thrilled to be doing the show as well.
Is it an advantage or disadvantage for your wife to be so close when you're doing those cozy scenes with the blonde?
I don't know. Getting those cozy scenes with the blonde saved us from losing our, it allows us to pay our mortgage. So she's philosophical about it, I would say. The woman I kiss every night is married to a guy who was one of our sound men for a while. So he was out in the house mixing while watching us, kiss. So it's one of the occupational hazards that an actor has to face, that he might have to kiss some beautiful blonde girl. And Alette and I are pretty good at working out those things. We have a nice, if she is threatened to buy it or whatever, she doesn't tell me about it too much. She seems to take it all pretty well.
On payday, it works out.
Yeah, exactly. We needed this gig, and so yeah, she can. That's probably the only drawback about this whole show, really, except being away from home. You know, we've been on the road for 2 years now, so. But you know, all my life as an actor, you wait for a role like this, and you wait for, you know, they're great roles, but not necessarily in great shows. This is a great show. The production itself, they poured everything into it. The tour is exactly, you know, like the Broadway show. 9 semi-trucks to move it, 440 costumes, the wigs. I mean, if you're going to be, you know, for an actor, it's a dream thing to play Leo Bloom in the 12-time Tony Award-winning show. So you wait all your life for these problems, you know, to have to kiss a girl on stage and worry about what your wife's thinking. You know.
So it's not a cut-down version then?
No, it's not at all. There are 2 concessions. One is that it's about 5%. The deck is slightly squished by about 3 or 4% because of 2 theaters of our 56 tour, you know, city tour, that it just simply wouldn't fit in their proscenium. So, but when we play a really large house, the set might look smaller than it would in the St. James in New York, but we have the same backdrops, the same. There's one concession, the end of Springtime for Hitler, a couple of Nazis actually, paratroopers fly in, which is flying by foot. You know, it's a Peter Pan type stunt that requires massive railing grid, you know, work in the grid. And it just wouldn't have worked for a 5-second gag to do that in every city. So they don't fly people, but the props are the same. We have motorcycles, you know, we have it's a 21-piece orchestra, and it's exactly the same on New York, and the cast is the same costumes that William Ivy Long designed. So really, it's rare that a tour gets taken this seriously, that the producers in New York make sure that the people in Dallas and Boise, for that matter, see what they envisioned on Broadway.
Well, you'll be here for 2 weeks, and I hear that the tickets are already getting very scarce.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
So anyway, Andy, thanks so much for your time today.
It's my pleasure, Bobbie. We have about, you know, we don't get tenure, you know. I have to go get another job. I have to go find another job. And I don't get promoted just because they liked me in this play. I have to like go beat some other, you know, kid out of an acting job somewhere.
Okay.
You're rolling.
All right. When you met Mel Brooks, did he have any comments to make?
Yeah, he had plenty.
Okay. I rather expected to see you pull the blankie out of your pocket
Oh,
this
well. Fine, it's around here somewhere.
Your big number, I want to be a producer. Would you like to be a producer?
Sure, I'd like to get their paychecks, their cut of this. I'd like to get a cut of their gross. You know.
Your wife is in the show. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage for your wife to be there watching you off stage when you're doing the cozy scenes with the blonde Amazon?
Well, she gives me pointers, you know, to how to crook my neck and how to move in slow, roll my eyes back in my head.
Hang on just a second. Okay. How close is this production here in Dallas to, let me rephrase that. How close is this production here in Texas to the original Broadway?
Oh, it's virtually identical. Same size cast, same costumes, same orchestra. There are a couple of concessions they had to make to the size of some smaller theaters, but not with the production's not cut down in any way.
Okay, that's fine. Good. You're released.